Imagine living in a metal tube hurtling around Earth at 28,000 kilometers per hour. You sip your morning coffee, and it floats away. Oh, and by the way, you're 400 kilometers above the ground. Sound like sci-fi? Nope. That's just Tuesday on the International Space Station. But how does it work? How is it even built? Who lives there? And wait, how do they, use the bathroom? Hold on tight, because we're about to dive into the most expensive Airbnb in human history. Let's rewind to the 1980s. Hair was big, the Cold War was chilly, and space agencies were not exactly besties. But then, surprise twist, countries actually decided to cooperate. Yes, humans built something in space together without blowing each other up. NASA, Roscosmos, that's Russia's space agency, ESA, JAXA, and CSA teamed up to create the International Space Station, a $150 billion laboratory floating in low Earth orbit. Seriously, it's like the Avengers, but nerdier, and in space, and with way more tang. Construction started in 1998. Piece by piece, module by module, astronauts assembled it in orbit, like a cosmic IKEA set, but with a slightly higher risk of exploding. Each module had a role. 1. Zarya powered it up. 2. Unity connected systems. 3. Destiny, Columbus, and Kibo became the science hubs. And guess what? It's still growing. Like a high-tech Frankenstein made of science, diplomacy, and space-grade duct tape. So, what's it like living up there? Let's start with the basics. The ISS orbits Earth every 90 minutes. That's 16 sunrises and sunsets a day. Perfect if you love long walks on the celestial beach. But life isn't just cosmic sightseeing. Astronauts run experiments you can't do on Earth, like growing crystals, studying how fire behaves in zero gravity, and yes, researching how the human body slowly freaks out in space. But wait, how do they stay alive? Where does oxygen come from? Where do they sleep? How do they shower? Hold that thought. Here comes the mind-blowing part. The ISS creates its own oxygen using something called an electrolysis system. It splits water into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen gets released, and the hydrogen, well, they throw it overboard, because space doesn't do recycling. And that toilet question from earlier? Yeah, urine is filtered into drinking water. One astronaut's "you" is another astronaut's "ah," refreshing. As for food, think military-grade snacks. Rehydrated mac and cheese, vacuum-packed beef, and if you're lucky, space tacos. Yes, really. And sleep? Astronauts zip themselves into floating sleeping bags. No beds, no pillows. Just you, a few science experiments, and the occasional floating tortilla. Okay, now the real wizardry. The ISS is like a Swiss Army knife of science. It uses massive solar panels, each longer than a Boeing 777, to power its systems. These panels track the sun, constantly adjusting to soak up energy. And navigation? The ISS doesn't just float. It's constantly adjusted using gyroscopes, thrusters, and ground control teams watching like cosmic lifeguards. Every now and then, it even gets a reboost, a push from visiting spacecraft to stop it from falling back to Earth. But here's a scary thought. What happens when something goes wrong? Meteoroid, space debris, solar flare? They train for everything. There's a safe haven protocol, emergency evacuation plans, and tons of simulations. Because in space, mistakes are a little more final. Ever tried rebooting your Wi-Fi router at home? Now imagine doing that, while upside down, in orbit, with your life depending on it. So, why do we care? Because the ISS is not just a space station. It's proof that nations can work together, even when gravity and politics try to pull them apart. It's a floating lab that helps us understand disease, physics, climate change, and maybe even how to live on Mars one day. It's also a constant reminder that we're all just tiny dots on a fragile blue planet, circling a star, together. And the next time you look up at the sky, someone, somewhere, is looking down at you from the ISS, floating in the dark, doing science. Speaking of space dangers, ever wondered what would happen if the moon collided with Earth? Spoiler, it's not great. Tap this video right here to find out the shocking truth. You won't believe how close we've come.